I want to give you a welcome today watching this video. My name is Alfredo Cousin and I'm a sales manager of Endian. We will talk today about our UTM solution. But first let me introduce Endian to you. Endian started in 2003 with a small group of Linux enthusiastic people that love the security landscape. Today, with a worldwide presence, has several thousand of customers and more than 1,600,000 downloads of its community version. Endian started developing a software unified threat management solution and immediately, talking with several potential customers, realized that to integrate a hotspot solution was mandatory for the future of the solution itself. Indeed, just 1 year later, Endian was the first UTM solution that developed an integrated hotspot platform that still today is recognized as one of the most flexible in the market. While continuing in the UTM development across the years, including hardware platforms, integrating more and more functionalities, in 2011, Endian has been challenged by one of the perimeter solutions customer to develop a security gateway solution dedicated to the industrial, today called Internet of Things and Machine to Machine. And just 1 year later, Endian had the first solution for the new market, a market that today has a forecast trend of growth close to 3-digit per year. In a scenario where the perimeter is more and more extended and the need of connecting multiple devices and systems and people, the UTM core technology is the base of any solution in Endian and allows to reach different markets such as networking security or perimeter security, hotspot management including bring your own device, secure remote connectivity, industrial Internet of Things security or Industrial 4.0. Granting the transmission of any data in a secure and protected way, the concept of unify that is contained in the UTM acronym for Endian is reflected as well in the licensing. When you purchase a license of UTM, it includes all the security functionalities and the hotspot as well. As I mentioned before, today we will talk about our UTM last features, and in particular about inline content analysis, event management, VPN Portal, and email quarantine. I now leave to continue our product manager Christian Graffer, who will describe to you all the functionalities above listed. At the end of this session, you will be able to ask questions to one of our experts, so please wait until the end of the presentation and stay connected with Endian.
Hello and thank you for joining our webinar. My name is Christian Graffer and I'm working as product manager at Endian. Today I will show you some features of the Endian UTM product. The Endian VPN Portal is a feature that allows users to connect to internal network resources from the outside without requiring a VPN client to be installed, but also without the limitations of a simple port forward. This is done by using reverse proxy technology, which allows access to the internal resources through HTTP and HTTPS. This means that all the user needs to have is a web browser to access the intranet, internal websites, or internal HTML5 applications, which provide support for many more protocols. So what are the differences to the similar concepts? Most of all, the port forwards and full-featured VPNs. Mostly that port forwards are very limited. They don't allow access to multiple internal servers. They don't allow additional encryption. They don't provide support for user authentication, whereas the VPN is full-featured, but it requires a client to be installed. How does the VPN portal work, since it does not have the limitations? In the first step, the user opens the browser, connects to the URL of the portal. Second step, the portal will check whether user authentication is required or not. Third step, if the authentication was successful or not needed, it will connect to the internal resources, load the answer, and send the reply to the browser, which will then show the website. In our test setup here, we have three systems that are needed. One, most importantly, the Endian machine, configured on its default IP address 192.168.0.15, which is configured with the VPN portal on the URL vpnportal.endian.com. And then we have two other machines, which are a Windows and a Linux machine, to which we want to connect. These machines support different protocols, so we want to connect to both of them through a web interface. They have websites that are shown, but we also want to manage the machines themselves. So we want to connect to the Linux machine through VNC or SSH, and we want to connect to the Windows machine through RDP. So let's see how we can do that. The first step here is that we enable the VPN portal, which can be found in the VPN portal menu. Let's enable it here. Let's just choose a portal. Let's call it Endian's portal. A domain name on which it will run. For us, it was vpnportal.endian.com. Portal owner is Endian. We can choose on which uplink it should be available. In our case, let's select everything. And yes, we want support for HTTPS. This means that we can also configure a certificate. Let's create a new one here. System host name is vpnportal.endian.com. We don't need much more, just choose the country, which is Italy. Validity of 1 year, which is 365 days. Password. Okay. Let's just save this and apply. And we're ready to go. The VPN portal is already running, but obviously it doesn't redirect to anything. So if we open the browser now and insert vpnportal.endian.com, we will see that the default page is being shown. We also enabled HTTPS, so we can also access through HTTPS, and we see it still works. Now, what are we going to do? We're going to connect to, or we're going to create the connections to the Linux and the Windows machine that we saw before. Let's have one path that we call Windows. The destination URL in this case is 192.168.0.36. We don't want to require authentication for this site, so let's just add this path here. That's all that is needed. Obviously, we need to apply. Now, if we go to the VPN portal endian.com help page once again, we will see that we need to enter the full path into the location bar to see what's actually configured. So since we know the full path, it was /Windows, we can just enter it and see that we have a web server configured on our Windows machine, which is running Internet Information Services 7. So we can expect that we have a Windows 7 machine right there. Now I want to add another path, and this time I want to use authentication as well, and I want to connect to the Linux machine here. So let's call it secret. The Linux machine's URL is 192.168.0.35, and authentication required. We do have global authentication settings, but I want to override them here for this special path. So this is what I'm going to do. I add the path here, and now I do have the /secret, which can be reached through the same URL as here. Let's just open this in a new tab, and instead of Windows, let's use secret here. Obviously, since we configured the user authentication here, it will require a username and a password, which right now we don't have. So let's just create one here in the authentication menu. Let's add a new local user with the name secret user and a very secret password, which is secret. Besides this, we don't need to change anything. We can just save the user. It is automatically enabled. So if we now insert secret user secret here, we should be able to connect, and tada, we have reached a very secret page. But that is not all. So right now we have seen two ways in which we can configure paths, one without authentication, the other one with, but still it does not explain how we can connect to not web-based services such as VNC, RDP, or SSH. To show you how that can be done, I will just create another path here, and let's call it remote. And the internal URL in this case is 192.168.0.35, port 8080 /guacamole. We don't require authentication, since we will see that the service that is exposed here will require authentication on its own. So right now we can just copy the URL here, and instead of the secret part, we just use remote as the path. And we see that we have a Guacamole login window here. I previously already created a user there, so I'm just logging in using those credentials. And what we see now is that we have web applications configured for RDP, SSH, and VNC. So like we guessed here with the IIS 7, we have Windows 7 running, and now we would really like to connect through RDP just by using our VPN portal. Clicking on this link, we see that a full-featured RDP client can be used just by using a web browser. So we can open Explorer, we can open Internet Explorer to connect to a website. So basically what we have here is a web browser that is opened inside a web browser through RDP. So this is a really powerful tool which can be used through the VPN portal. We can do the same with Ubuntu or with the Linux installation, but instead of RDP, we're using VNC in this case, and we see that we have access through VNC as well. So not only can we manage Windows systems by using the VPN portal, we can also connect to Linux systems and just run normal commands however we want, all through the VPN portal and all through HTTP or HTTPS in this case. And last but not least, we also have the possibility to open an SSH connection and run any program that we want through SSH. Meaning we really have we have root access to the machines. We can use them however we like. This only by a few configuration steps. as you have seen here in this tutorial. The Endian Event Notification and Management System allows you to configure how the system will react to the more than 30 available events where the number is constantly growing. At the moment, we have support for critical system events such as a hardware failure. We have the VPN fully covered, meaning you can react to user being logged in, user being logged out, tunnel going up or tunnel going down, and connectivity status changes such as an uplink going up or down. There are three basic ways to handle these events. The first and most basic way is by sending an email to the administrator, but you can also send a text message through SMS or run a custom Python script which you can upload. And this is a very powerful way to react to these events, as we will see. The SMS text notifications are sent through Endian Network, which is an existing infrastructure that was already used for the Endian hotspot before. So as this is a service provided by Endian, an SMS credit is required for this to work. It is possible to configure one phone number to which these notifications should be sent. The most powerful way is to create your own Python scripts. This can be done by having full access to the Python programming language. You can upload an unlimited number of scripts, which means you can create your own script for every single event that is available. And the Endian API allows you to modify the existing system configurations, so you can reconfigure services and you can also start or stop services. Now, what does this look like? Here we have the main configuration interface. As you can see, you can specify the phone number here. I am not going to do that as I cannot show you how the SMS is going to arrive here, but we can override the email settings. During the initial network wizard, you can configure an administrator email address, which you can override here, as you see. I'm not going to do that either. For the SMS part, as we said, this was going to work through Endian Network, so we will have to check whether we have credit available. We have right now 2,500 SMS that are left. But if we would want to add more SMS here, basically what we would have to do is we would have to ask our reseller for an activation code, paste the activation code here, like I'm doing now, and activate it. As you can see now, the number of SMS has doubled, so I have 2,500 additional SMS that I just registered. For the events themselves, we can see here that we have a list of all the events, which are currently 34 on 2 pages. You can see the VPN events here, system upgrade, system failure, and others. Let's choose one for which we want to use a script, a custom Python script. We would go with the SSH login successful here. So all we have to do is upload a script. I have already done that before, but if you want to do that, basically all you need to do is define a name, add a description if you want to, and upload the Python file. In order to know what the script should actually look like, it's important to have a look at the documentation before. So if we go to the documentation of the event notifications, which basically is under the system event notification scripts menu, we will see what such a script should actually look like. The important thing is that we have a class that is called script event, and it contains a method called process, which will treat all the arguments that are passed to the method for the script. to get a list of all the arguments or the available variables, we can check the configuration or the documentation link here, and we'll get a list of all the available events. And then for the one which we're going to handle, which is this one, SSH user has successfully logged in, we see that we have the remote IP and the user variable. So let's assign this script to the event. So here, SSH login successful. We want to run a custom script, SSH login system access chain. Okay, let's just change, and the configuration is already saved. So what does the script actually do? It is a rather short script. Here we can see the process method which is being called. It will just get the remote IP and user variables. It will then load the configuration of the system access firewall, add a new rule with the IP address of the user that is being logged in, write the configuration down, and in the end restart the system access firewalls in order to have the rule active. So right now, if we check the firewall, let's go to system access, we see that we have some generic rules, but not a rule for the IP address of the user that is connected to the SSH console. So what we can do now is we open SSH, enter the password. So the connection was successful, and we should have the new rule available here. Let's refresh. We see that we have the new rule, which is granting access for user root, connecting from IP 10.135.10.7, which is actually my current IP address. And since we also did a restart, we can also check if the rule has been applied. So we see the rule is there. So the script has been run successfully. This was just an example, but there's many more things that one can do, like reacting to a VPN user being logged in, creating custom rules on the fly, turning services on or off on the fly, and so on. So you see, this is really a powerful way to handle events. An often requested feature is to place the UTM appliance in an already existing infrastructure and to analyze the content in line. To do that, two steps are required. The first one is the network configuration, in which you need to make sure that the appliance is placed between the router and the rest of the network. And during the configuration, you need to choose bridged as a network mode. The second step is the proxy configuration, in which you need to configure the proxy in transparent mode. And for additional rules like firewall rules or policy routing rules to work, it is necessary to always select keep the original source IP address in the proxy configuration. The setup in the network would look like this. You see that the appliance is placed exactly between the router and the rest of the network. It is important that the appliance itself is placed in the same network and has the router as its gateway. And it is also important to note here that we don't need to change anything on the internal network, as all the existing systems still keep the router as their gateway, as you can see here. Now, how is the configuration done? When going through the network wizard, the first thing we do is we choose bridged mode. We go on. If we want to, we can add an additional zone to the green zone. Let's just stick with blue here. We need to make sure that we have at least 2 interfaces configured in the green zone, because later on we will have to define which of these interfaces is the one that is connected to the router. Just like in the example seen before, I will choose 192.168.0.2 as IP address here. Besides that, I don't have to change anything here. Here I choose the outgoing interface, which here is the first one. I add the address of the router as a gateway here. The DNS configuration can be anything. It can be the router, or it can be, like in this case, the Google servers. If we want, we can also set up the default mail address for notifications. I don't want to do that here. Let's just go on. And now by clicking apply configuration, everything will be saved and the appliance can be placed in line. Now when configuring the proxy, all we need to do is put the proxy in transparent mode and make sure that the original IP address is kept so that firewall rules or policy routing rules will still work. We just save it and that's it. Applying, we're done. The appliance is now analyzing the content in inline mode, and you don't have to change anything in your already existing infrastructure. The mail quarantine is the location where harmful emails, such as mails containing viruses or spam, are being stored. It is managed by the administrator, but unfortunately this will end up with one person having to look through thousands of emails to check for false positives. And therefore the summary reports have been created, which are report emails that are being sent to the actual recipients, so they can check whether the quarantine contains false positives, and in case, contact the administrator to release that email. It is possible to define how often those summary reports should be sent and also what they should contain. Let's have a look here. This is the mail quarantine. We see that it contains lots of emails. They have been quarantined for different reasons, such as a bad header here or because they were considered spam here. And here is where the administrator can actually release a mail or remove it from the quarantine. The summary reports themselves can be enabled here, and it is possible to define how often they should be sent. Usually this would be at the end of the day, at the end of the week, or at the end of the month. So I will go for weekly emails here. And we can also define what should be included. Should it be everything that is in the quarantine for the recipient, or just the mails that have arrived since the last summary report has been sent to this recipient? I would go with emails received after the last report. Let's also include contact information for the administrator, which might be useful in big companies where not everybody knows which administrator or which person is responsible for the service. So let's call administrator, and the email address is admin@test.com, just to enter something. Let's say that this is email. Perhaps we also add a phone number here. Okay, so this will be the contact data that will be included in the mail. We can also choose the language, which I'll leave to English here. We can define what should be part of the email. So in the summary, we'll have a list of all the emails that have been quarantined. So here we can define which fields we actually want to show. I will go with everything. So the mail will contain the attachment information, how many attachments have been stored in that mail, when it has been sent, why it has been quarantined, to whom it has been sent, which obviously is the recipient address, who has sent the mail, how big the mail is, and obviously also the subject. Consider that summary reports are being sent only to addresses that are defined here, since spam mails usually do not contain a recipient that has to be inside your network. So we already have the endian.com domain configured in our incoming domains of the SMTP proxy here. So we can just choose this domain here and add summary reports for Endian.com. And here we have additional white and black lists that we can use. I'm going to use a blacklist here because info@endian.com is not actually a real address. It's something that is sent to many people, so I don't want to send summary reports for that address. And yeah, basically that's it. You just save and then apply the changes. And at the end of the schedule here, you will receive an email, or the recipients will receive an email containing the information about all the emails that have been quarantined for them. A report would eventually look like something like this. We can see that we have email quarantine summary in the subject, and then we have this notification has been sent to you from the email quarantine on the Endian UTM appliance, and it will show a total of 1 emails in this case. Obviously, it can be more. And here we see the contact data that has been provided, and we see who sent which email. In this case, we have just 1 email that has been sent to me. It has been quarantined because it was considered spam, when it has been sent, and so on. So this is what quarantine summary reports look like and how they can be used to release emails from the quarantine. So this is it from my side for today. Thank you once more for joining. Goodbye.